These are bank depositors protesting for their life savings outside the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. On September 23rd this year, the Reserve Bank of India placed restrictions on this cooperative bank. These restrictions are meant to curb any fresh lending, accepting of deposits and investments among others. Rules for deposit withdrawals went from just 1,000 rupees a day to 1 lakh now, that too in case of emergencies. So why did this happen? In the early weeks of September, the central bank had received complaints from a group of whistleblowers who claimed that Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank was involved in fraudulent activities and that the bank's board was in on it. The complaint pointed out that loans in certain bank accounts with PMC should have been classified as NPAs but were not. The immediate response to this complaint were the restrictions placed by the central bank. This is Joy Thomas, the bank's former managing director, who then claimed that he had approached the RBI with PMC's balance sheet. At this point, Thomas claimed that the bank's exposure to a big corporate group, HDIL, was just about 2,500 crores.
The exposure which the Reserve Bank we have reported was to HDIL group, which even though there was a delay in the payment and the classification was wrong, it was backed by almost 200% of the outstanding plus interest with our bank.
Joy Thomas, in his letter to the Reserve Bank of India, confessed that 6 bank board members, including him, had approved loans given to real estate developer Housing Development and Infrastructure Limited, the largest borrower of the bank. Turns out, the bank had breached the RBI's exposure limits not just to HDIL but also the Uttam Galva Group. PMC's actual exposure to the HDIL Group stood at 6,500 crores, accounting for a third of the total loan book and nearly 4 times the regulatory cap. Meanwhile, PMC had also extended loans worth at least 565 crore to Uttam Galva. This again was an exposure in excess of the limits set by the RBI. An urban cooperative bank can lend up to 15% of its total capital to a single borrower and 40% to a group. The Economic Offences Wing of Mumbai Police uncovered that the bank's management had replaced 44 loan accounts of HDIL with over 21,000 fictitious loan accounts. All this in an effort to camouflage defaults by the HDIL group. The bank incurred losses to the tune of 4,355 crores. So why did PMC go all the way to lend to HDIL while incurring losses on its own balance sheet? The answer to that lies in the confession letter Joy Thomas wrote to the RBI, explaining the kind of relationship the bank shared with the promoters of the HDIL group, the Vadhavans. At the heart of the scam were 3 main accused: HDIL chairman and managing director Rakesh Vadhavan, his son Sarang Vadhavan, and PMC's former chairman Vyram Singh. The personal relationship between the bank and the Vadhavan family goes back to the 1980s. In 1986, the Vadhavans first helped out the bank by infusing capital of rupees 13 lakh. They also kept a large sum of deposits for the revival of the bank, according to Joy Thomas's letter. When the bank was facing a run on its deposits in 2004, Vadhavans stepped in again with 100 crores to deal with the liquidity crunch. Thomas also said that more than 60% of the transactions of the bank were with the HDIL group. PMC would charge an 18 to 24% interest from the group's accounts and make good profits, claimed Thomas. Meanwhile, the HDIL group maintained that its banking relationships with PMC were clean and that audits presented a true and fair picture. Things changed around 2012-13 when HDIL started defaulting on dues. One reason was the cancellation of the slum rehabilitation project near the Mumbai airport. Even though the outstanding loans with the group swelled, the bank's management did not classify them as NPAs, fearing a hit on the balance sheet. They also knew they would face regulatory action from the RBI. Thomas wrote in his letter that since HTIL had a good track record so far of clearing dues with certain delays, they continue to report all accounts as standard accounts. All of this went unnoticed as statutory auditors were looking at only incremental advances and scrutinized accounts shown only by the management. Before 2015, the RBI also looked at only top accounts. Since loans to HTIL were spread across multiple accounts, they never showed up in the RBI's inspection, said Thomas in his letter. Post 2017, when RBI started looking into the advances master, the bank replaced the accounts belonging to HTIL Group with dummy accounts to escape detection by the regulator. Since the loans were mentioned against a deposit and were shown as small amounts, they did not attract the attention of the central bank. The Reserve Bank in its investigation found that out of 1,800 employees of the bank, only about 25 had access to the loan accounts of the bankrupt real estate developer and its group entities. Bank officials used specific codes assigned to the accounts belonging to HTIL to disguise the money in the loan accounts. Thomas concluded his letter by admitting that the concealment of true accounts became too much for the 6 employees. Hence, the management decided to come clean to the Reserve Bank of India. Thomas took responsibility for all decisions made by the bank's management. Joy Thomas is now in custody. The other employees on the bank's board have also been arrested. The Enforcement Directorate has booked HTIL promoters Rakesh Vadhavan and Sarang Vadhavan under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The RBI is conducting its own investigation into the bank's affairs. For now, the bank remains under the regulator's directions.
हम लोग रोड पे भीख मांग रहे हैं। हम लोग क्या मांग रहे हैं? हम लोग भीख के मांग रहे हैं।
हाथ जोड़ता हूँ, उसका पैर पड़ता हूँ। कोई सुसाइड करता था या इसके अलावा हार्ट अटैक आ गया तो इसका जिम्मेदार मौजूदा सरकार होगी।
अरे हमने चोरी नहीं करी, अगर ऐसा तो सारे कोऑपरेटिव बैंक को सरकार बंद कर दे। क्यों चला के रखा है? गलती करे कोई? अरे